name's Sanjay, and I'm an entrepreneur that is infatuated with what entrepreneurs do outside of the office, outside of their business. How do they bring balance to their lives, and of course, how do they live at a point that allows them to go into work every day and perform at their best? I often say that entrepreneurs are like athletes. They need to go into work every day and they need to be at their physical, emotional and mental best. And athletes, of course, have a whole team of people that look after them. What do entrepreneurs do to keep them at their equilibrium, to keep them so that they can perform every day of the week and every week of the year for decades on end? We don't get to retire like some sports people do. So I'm here with the CEO and founder of Startup Boost, and Blake and I have known each other for a long time. We actually went to university together in London, and so it's been quite some time. We're sitting here in beautiful Venice Beach, California. We'll get you some shots of the beautiful house that Blake has here, and it's a bit of a WeWork. There's always been people that come here. It's an eclectic crowd. I'm always excited to see Blake. He's always got some interesting ideas, and I know he's got his hands in a number of projects at the moment. So Blake, along with Startup Boost, tell us what it is that you're involved with and what got you here today.
Well, nice to meet all you guys. Glad to be here. And so Startup Boost is a pre-accelerator, and it is something that we kind of tried to put together to help out the ecosystem that comes just before accelerators. So I deal with that, and I'll go a little bit more into Startup Boost in a second. I also here in Venice had another side project, which is bringing more music to this side of Los Angeles. LA has just got a ton of music, but not really on the west side. If you think about Silicon Beach, it's typically referring to the west side. And Silicon Beach in this case for LA, I know that we've heard that for Sydney or maybe in Australia as well. But and I also have a kind of side little project called the MoGuard, which protects mustaches. It's a little cup attachment that evokes an old mustache cup and kind of modernized that approach to drinking.
Yeah.
So.
I wonder why you came up with that.
And so with the music, we throw a big festival once a year and then have some other events, and it's been going really well. It's called Sam Jam. And Startup Boost, though, is my probably biggest enterprise, and what we are trying to do is take a model that is very kind of low cost intensive, really brings together the ecosystem, the community, to bring the top mentors, which would consist of successful entrepreneurs and investors and other key community players together to help out some of the more promising startups that are coming through the ecosystem. As all you know, there are tons of startups out there and a lot of wonderful ideas, and funding is ever more difficult to get to. So we're trying to kind of come in a little bit earlier and have a no equity taken, no cost program. And we're currently in LA, Pittsburgh, New York. We have a couple programs, London, Dublin, Toronto, and Detroit.
Excellent.
And we can open up in Chicago, Austin, and a few other cities here soon as well.
Excellent, excellent. So a busy guy to say the least. And let's start with where we are. We're in Venice Beach. Were you born and raised here? And if not, if you decided to lay roots here, what is it about this part of the world that you think brings balance to your life, and what makes you able to bring some of that creativity out?
So I was born in Santa Monica, which is really right next to here. So I'm actually not too far from home. My mom still lives in the area, and so does my brother. But I've ventured out. I left pretty much in high school, and then moved to the East Coast for about 7 years with some time in London as well.
Great.
And then had enough of the weather and decided to make my way back home.
Okay.
I love Los Angeles. It's the weather really brings it all together, but I love the ability to be in nature or close to nature, and also yet have the big city, I guess, perks.
Okay.
So for me, I'm drawn to the ocean. I love the beach. I play beach volleyball every Saturday.
Yeah.
And I love being able to have the mountains right here and go snowboarding. That's those are kind of some positives there. I think that that's what drew me back to this area. But I'm also driven to kind of progressive and innovative and driven environments and people. So.
Okay. And what is it? How do you deal with the pressures of work? Do you ever feel overburdened? I mean, we hear from a lot of people that they struggle to sleep. Entrepreneurs, sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with different ideas and need to jot things down. So, what is it about your routine that allows you to I guess handle some of that pressure? Because it can be a lot of pressure. And how do you maintain that day after day? What is it about the routine that you're doing?
I could definitely go into some of those things. I have times anxiety and thoughts and all those things come together and they make sleep difficult. I think that's the topic. I think that it really starts out with kind of identifying what's important in your life,
right?
And making sure that you give each one of those things the importance in kind of your analysis. And so obviously your startup is important. You have to give time to it. You have to bust your ass to get the things done.
Sure.
When you get it done. But you need to create a structure and a separation between your startup and the rest of your life. I can't say I'm great at it, but I am good at being able to not feel bad if I'm doing something else that I've given a certain amount of respect and value in my life. So for me, I'm playing beach volleyball on Saturdays, and I play basketball on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I go to yoga on Wednesdays, and so getting the exercise and doing things that I enjoy, I find is important. So that kind of, I love also being efficient.
Right.
And doing two things, and doing something I enjoy, but also getting that exercise.
Yeah. You have a trainer, I saw that you...
Yeah, so then 2 days a week I do that as well, and I work out. It helps me to create 100% I'm going to be doing it because I have accountability to somebody else.
Yeah.
Basketball, I don't necessarily have to go, but I love it, so I do.
Okay. And I often say that, if you had an F1 or a European supercar, you would never put a cheap fuel inside of it. So what is it about the food that you're putting in your body, and how are you looking after it? It amazes me sometimes that a lot of us will look after a car or some other type of asset better than we do our own bodies, and of course that's the greatest asset that you can have. Is there something about that? You're obviously a lean guy, you look after yourself, you do the training. What is it about the food intake that you're conscious of? What are the tips that you've got for people as well?
I pay attention to what I eat.
Okay.
I don't really calorie count, but I do pay attention to things that are high calories. I do peek at them to kind of get a general sense of where they are.
Right.
I actually have gotten even more control to what I'm eating by using a kind of meal service that comes. I'm not going to say drop any, but I guess I will freshly. And
they're great.
They are. Their calories are low, but the meals are full, and it's fresh ingredients. So I find that important. But even before that, it was still I would eat things that I thought were decent meals. I wouldn't eat a full meal.
Right.
Like if I got it out, I would save it for dinner as well. Eat half now, eat half later. You don't have to eat what's in front of you. But more so, fresh ingredients, not as many carbs, if I can help it. And from there, I save some room for beer. And that's where I got to save the carbs on one side so I can drink the beer on the other side.
And that's an important point. I mean, this is not about being a robot. I think that what we're trying to discuss is having a balance. And alcohol in most people's lives is a really important part of socializing, and I think bringing about some downtime and letting the shoulders relax. And so I'm not against that at all. And in fact, a lot of the people that we speak to say that they need that downtime.
Mm-hmm.
Moderation seems to be a key thing we hear again and again.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the healthiest way to go.
Yeah.
Make sure you're doing moderation, not going over the top.
Yeah.
For me, I also bring together, more so the alcohol involves like hanging out with friends, and that is something I value. So back to jump kind of full circle to what I was saying earlier, exercise is important, but setting those values is like, I need to get X amount of sleep.
Right.
And I need to hang out with my friends.
Okay, well, sleep was going to be one of my next questions.
Yeah.
So there are, I think, too many CEOs that speak of 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. I know that most medical professionals wouldn't agree. What's your number for amount of hours of sleep to be effective in the morning?
So it's a different statement or question here in the sense of what is my number to be minimally effective but still effective is 4 hours.
Okay.
And there's times where you just end up having to do that.
Yeah.
But I shoot for 7 hours.
Okay.
I mean, it also with sleep, anytime that you get sleep deprivation, you have to get twice as much sleep to make up for it. I'm sure you've talked about that.
Yeah.
That's really tough to do, but the point is try not to get behind.
Yeah.
Then, that 7 hours is not going to really do it. And if I'm in a healthy world, 8 hours would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point. So 2 nights sleep of 6 hours a night is better than one night of 4 hours and the next night 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That consistency and routine, I think, is important. So that's interesting. Now, you did talk about your creativity and having an outlet. You're interesting, because you, I think, also use some of your startups as a creative outlet. And would you say MoGuard was one of those? It was something that you could have some fun with and try to make some money at the same time.
Yeah. In terms of creative outlets, I mean, I would say that I enjoy. If you don't enjoy starting a business and you don't find what you're doing fascinating, it's going to be hard to be an entrepreneur because you're spending a lot of your time in this, and there's other elements of the company that just are not fun. But as long as some of them are, I think that's great. And so the MoGuard, I also really enjoy learning. I love kind of figuring new things out, and I'm an engineer by trade, so that's kind of like all that is. It's like figuring out how you're going to make something work. So I learned a ton about, one side of my world was software engineering, but now is like consumer product. How are we going to market it? How are we going to do PR? And it's fun, except for the moments where something doesn't work, and then that really sucks. Like I just didn't sleep for a night for no reason. Right?
It's common. It's common that can happen.
Yeah.
And what would you say in terms of looking after yourself? If you were to give the audience 3 tips that you would recommend to them, you might have a young entrepreneur knock on your door and ask you what they should do. How would you describe to that young entrepreneur what's required to have longevity, rather than maybe having a business that has an amazing return for 3 years and then leaves them exhausted for the next 7? What is it about having a consistent, longevity within that entrepreneurial life? Because I think you're the sort of guy that's going to be an entrepreneur for life, right? You are the definition of that. So, how would you point that out? What are the 3 things that you might say to him that him or her, that they should focus on?
I mean, it's a tough question.
Yeah.
Saying that, what's going to make it so you can be a lifelong entrepreneur? I think that having things that are going to help you not get burnt out, and that would be obviously staying healthy, not ruining your, healthy also involves like your social life and the people around you that you find important. Make sure that every once in a while you go travel somewhere. And
travel's a big one. Yes.
For me, I've made some big leaps and bounds when I do go traveling. It gets me out of that routine. It gets me out of everything around me, and it allows me to evaluate everything that I'm doing. Am I taking on the right task? So I need to kind of trim all my endeavors, because I find myself trying to do too many things.
Right.
and prioritizing. So I think that whether it's travel, have some sort of mechanism to kind of step back from it all and get out of the stimulus and be able to do some introspection, personally and also within your kind of business realm.
Great.
I'd say would be the first one. And that obviously means that if you're in a startup that doesn't seem to be working, be real with yourself.
Right.
I guess the second is be real with yourself.
Okay.
Don't get lost. I guess that's second. But yeah,
okay.
Let's do that.
So I think we've got health, we've got travel, and we've got not to get carried away in I guess, chasing a rabbit down a hole, so to speak. If things are not working, or if you happen to be in a certain financial position and sometimes people get offered jobs, don't be in love necessarily with the entrepreneurial idea if it's not working or you're not comfortable doing it.
Yeah. So you can always come back to being an entrepreneur. Go work somewhere for a couple of years, restock that up, and then go back out there and you have a new perspective and hopefully it's going to work out better this time.
Okay.
And you're learning from everything the techniques that you gained beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last couple of questions. What's next for Boost and for Blake Caldwell? Where do you see it going in the next 5-10 years?
10 years is a long time in an entrepreneur's life. But I would say that Startup Boost, our goal is to continue to expand out into all the and support different ecosystems all across the world.
Right.
Right now we're focusing on English-speaking ones, but we don't want to stop there. We have a model that is very adaptable and really is there to support different ecosystems. We're not here to come in and take over anything, and so it's very complementary. So we want to continue moving out and helping out entrepreneurs.
Excellent. And the final question is, do you believe in luck? Do you believe that entrepreneurs need luck to and have you had luck to get to where you are? It's
funny that one of the things I like to talk about a lot every once in a while, or seem to bring up a lot, is something called luck surface area.
Right.
And you do need luck. Things happen in life, but luck isn't always just luck. You can call it that, but it's it's lucky because you're at this time of basically sometimes you can be too early as a startup or too late.
Right.
But that's not necessarily luck. You can still kind of observe that.
Right.
You're I just happen to be. Every once in a while, you're that company came out with something similar, and that boosted mine. Oh wow, that was kind of great.
Right.
But I would say luck surface area, to go back to that, I don't remember who coined it, but is just the concept of making sure that you're letting people know about what you're doing. So networking, talking to people would be one side of the dimensions of a square or a rectangle, and the other is getting shit done.
Yeah.
Don't stop moving forward, because otherwise, you can talk a lot, but if you're not getting anything done, you don't really have much of a surface area.
That's a good one.
So make sure that you're moving forward, and then so that's my concept of luck. Because then you throw something's going to kind of hit somewhere on that sort of thing. So that's make sure you increase your ability to catch luck.
I love that, the luck surface area. Well, there he is, Blake Caldwell. He's one of the good guys of business, one of the good guys of entrepreneurship. He really does give back, and Boost is that sort of company that really is looking to help people get into entrepreneurship and helping them with a very early stage of their business and when they need it the most. So Blake Caldwell, thank you for being on the program, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks.